When the dust settled, the Barcelona circuit, what started as a routine battle for position in the final laps of the Spanish Grand Prix, has turned into a global debate over driver ethics, sporting justice, and whether the reigning F1 king has finally gone too far. Most people in Catalonia assumed Max Verstappen had just had a frustrating end to a difficult race, but now the F1 world is erupting not over lap times or tyre degradation, but rather over a fiery, dangerous moment between Verstappen and George Russell that many are calling one of the most deliberate acts of aggression we've seen in years. Recent analysis and slow-motion replays of onboard footage have shown what many believe to be Max Verstappen's deliberate steering into Russell's Mercedes just after his own race engineer instructed him to relinquish the position. Former champions, analysts, and even FIA officials have strongly condemned Verstappen for this action. The outcome will determine Verstappen's standing and eligibility to compete in Montreal. If you're a fan of Formula One or simply captivated by the high-stakes drama that only this sport can provide, make sure you click the subscribe button. This is more than just a racing incident. It's a potential scandal that may completely change the 2025 season. This video fully dissects the controversy, and I promise you won't want to miss it. Music. Barcelona's next lap 63 circuit, the Spanish Grand Prix, is at its hottest in Catalonia. Tensions are high due to worn nerves, and just as George Russell tries to pass Max Verstappen for fourth place, the entire race, possibly even the season, changes course. Verstappen, under orders from his own team, temporarily yields the position. But what happens next could redefine the standards of sportsmanship in contemporary Formula One. Let's analyze what happened and, more importantly, what it might mean when Verstappen slowed and Russell attempted to regain fourth place. Verstappen fled again and turned straight into the path of the Mercedes. The resulting collision was startling, not catastrophic, but unmistakably aggressive. The incident in question wasn't just dramatic, it was unnervingly deliberate. Earlier in the lap, Verstappen had run wide, taken to the runoff area to maintain position ahead of Russell. The stewards had seen enough, and RedBull, sensing the situation, told Max to return the place. Verstappen had acres of space on the inside line, but he made a sudden move toward the outside just as Russell committed to the corner. According to the recently released onboard footage, this wasn't a last-minute mistake or a desperate lunge. Rather, it was a driver in complete control who chose to engage in combat, and this is where the storm starts. Watching live for Sky Sports, Nico Rosberg wasn't holding back when he called for a black flag, saying that Verstappen's move appeared to be deliberate retaliation. The harshest penalty short of a ban on race. Johnny Herbert, a former FIA steward, agreed, stating that it was obvious the maneuver was intentional. Even Anthony Davidson, a typically calm and analytical commentator, was taken aback by Verstappen's actions. Why does Max suddenly decide I'm not going to let him through after appearing to back off? Davidson asked on air. He had control of the car, it was no accident. Herbert, a man who has witnessed innumerable borderline incidents in his time as a regulator, feels Verstappen crossed a line that cannot be ignored. The larger problem is that someone with Davidson's temperament would imply intent, which says volumes. When asked after the race if the maneuver was intentional, Bash casually disregarded the topic. Does it matter? When Sky Sports pressed him further, he just answered, "Well, that's your opinion, we'll leave it there." This didn't assist his case. There was no regret or denial, simply a cool, almost carefree attitude about what might have been a collision that ended a race. Verstappen only released a vaguely conciliatory statement the day after a media frenzy. It was an inappropriate and uncalled-for move, but even that post, which was buried in social media and written with the corporate distance we've come to expect from modern athletes, fell short of an apology. Russell was not held directly responsible for endangering another driver, and it felt more like damage control than sincere reflection. For Verstappen, the timing couldn't be worse. He has now accrued 3 additional penalty points on his super license, raising his total to 11, 1 point below the 12-point threshold that automatically results in a racing ban. Given that Verstappen is now 49 points behind Oscar Piastri in the Drivers' Championship, even a small breach of the track rules or obstructing another driver in Montreal could disqualify him from the upcoming Grand Prix. McLaren has become the season's dominant force thanks to Piastri and Lando Norris, while Red Bull has improved but is still inconsistent. Aside from the fact that Verstappen has always raced on edge and that his aggression, which was formerly hailed as a strength, is now being questioned, he simply cannot afford to lose a race weekend. One missing round might theoretically exclude him from winning the title. The Spanish Grand Prix wasn't his first encounter with Russell either. Recall the notorious bully remarks from 2024 when Russell said that Verstappen had threatened to smash my head against the wall following a practice incident in Baku. The two drivers have a history together, and this most recent altercation feels like a continuation of unresolved tensions that have been simmering over. To his credit, Russell has managed to keep things from getting worse. When asked about his thoughts, Piastri simply replied, "I just got crashed into." After that, he told Formula One broadcasters, "I've seen these kinds of moves in video games, not in Formula One." Although his sarcasm hurts, it also highlights the mounting worry that Verstappen's combative strategies are becoming more careless. It's important to consider why Verstappen would take this chance. One theory is that he was still upset from earlier in the race, especially after being told to give up a position he thought he had earned. Another is that Verstappen thought Russell had shoved him wide at turn 1 following the safety car restart. If so, it was a dangerous move. Still another is that Verstappen is just losing it under pressure. He isn't the only one at the top this season. Red Bull's once unwavering strategy calls have begun to falter in a title fight when every point counts, and the McLarens are swift. Ferrari is skulking, and frustration can cause even the best to make dubious choices. The team appears to be more conservative in their guidance after the incident in Saudi Arabia where Verstappen overtook Oscar Piastri off course and was penalized. They told Max to hand over the position to Russell, presumably to avoid another steward inquiry, but this time it backfired. Max felt resentful and acted out, earning him more penalty points. There is also an interesting subplot involving Red Bull. It begs the issue of whether Verstappen and his team's race management are at odds, and if so, how risky is it for Red Bull's hopes of winning the championship? As Johnny Herbert so eloquently stated, Max Verstappen is still one of the greatest talents Formula One has ever seen. His raw speed, car control, and racing IQ are practically unmatched, but he doesn't have to race this way. When he drives clean, he's practically unbeatable. When he races angry, he becomes his own worst enemy. The FIA has the opportunity to pretend that they've watched the footage and have noticed the mounting backlash. Now, the issue is whether they're prepared to stiffen the penalty or if they're scared to confront a motorist of Verstappen's stature. If Montreal witnesses another infraction, they might lose control of the judgment. Please share your ideas in the comments section below. Do you believe that Verstappen's action was a temporary error in judgment or a planned act of retaliation? Will it be too little, too late, if the FIA imposes a stiffer penalty in the days ahead?